Hello everybody and welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm Shellie Geigle with J&S Hobbies and Crafts, and today's tutorial is on how to make this 8.5 by 8.5 large folio, and we are using the Stamperia Lady Vagabond paper collection. So 8.5 by 8.5, it has about a 1-inch spine. And I think it came out really cool. I really like this. Now the first thing you're to see is I do have this die cut piece up front. However, in the tutorial, if you're not a die cutter, I take you through the steps if you don't have that die, and yours will come out nice too. So either way, this is kind of dimensional. It's layered. You can, in the tutorial, I give you an option. You can actually move your label down here and then utilize this as for a picture, to place a picture in there. However, I thought it looked really good just like this, and myself, I wouldn't be placing a photo in there. So this is magnetic, and it just comes out, and there's a place right here. You can journal about what's in here if you wanted, or just utilize it as for a picture. This is a large 4x6 picture that I could place right there, or you can do a smaller picture or nothing at all. Okay, folds out. Over here we have two folders, and I just love this paper. Okay, over here we fold out, and over here is a large pocket, and I have some picture mats in here, and I did create a few for some 4x6 that you can place on there and still have your decorated paper as a border. So, and then I have some other ones for some regular size photographs. Isn't that cute? I like that when you get that border around there. So that's that. Now these picture mats were not made in the tutorial. I do have you do that on your own after the tutorial. So during my time of cutting for picture mats, I did create this little folder. And you can get some inspiration from some of the stuff you see that I did in here to help you along. But this tutorial for the decorated paper, all the cuts, start to finish, putting this together is catered to a beginner so that anybody can make this. Okay, this is also a little tuck area too, so if you wanted to tuck something back in there, you could place a photo on it. So that is what that is. And then we come over to this other side, and we have this, we fussy cut this out in the tutorial. And we made it so you can tuck a photo mat back behind. So I thought that came out really good. And we did the little lock together. And then that opens up, and then this is a pocket. Now when I was doing the picture mats, I did a lot of folders. I like the folders. So you can journal, you can place your photographs. I thought that came out really good. Down here, the spyglass is just a tuck. Whether you want to utilize that or not, it's up to you, but you can just stick a larger 4x6 photo in here, maybe journal a little, or a smaller size. Or you can do both. Make a little folder, place your photo, and layer it like that. Alright, so that side is done. We come on over to here, and what we have is a little area here to where you can, I'm going to grab a picture mat out of here, where you can utilize this little area, and it's open-ended, so in case you wanted to place a photograph there, you could, like so. But this is also, it's kind of like an envelope style pocket, and this is where I'm storing a lot of the larger picture mats and folders. So what I created was this, and I have another one here. And then this, we just placed in there. You can journal on it. You can even stick a photo on the back. And this was from the paper collection. I definitely wanted to use that, but that would be really cool, you know. here's a 4x6. It's quite large of a photograph, but you can place it down and you can journal. And then here's a smaller one. And you can, there's also at the end of the tutorial, there is enough of the cut-aparts to where you could do some more decorating if you chose to. So that is that. And you can see we have quite a bit there. I'm just going to stick those all back in there. Okay, backside, you can utilize that for a photograph. Right here is just a little tuck area we created on this page. You can lay a photograph there and just leave it alone. I just kind of used it as a tuck. And I just made one of these from the paper thing. Coming back here, we fold out and we have a pocket, and I have another folder, and we have a little, just a little tuck area for a small little tag. So I thought that came out really cool. This folds out, and there is more places here for photographs, and then we come to our waterfall in the back. And you can also place a photograph down there. So that is what we will be making today. It is easy, and actually it's a lot of fun to make these. If you haven't tried it yet, you should. It's a lot of fun, and it will hold a lot of photographs. So anyway, let's go move into the materials list, find out what we need to make this. There's not a whole lot, and we'll then start putting it together. Let's go over the materials for this folio. This is a large folio, so we're going to need a little more paper. And what I chose to use is the Stamperia Lady Vagabond. And this paper is pretty unique. I really like it. So I'm going to just flip through this really quick. And by the way, both of these, they have 10 double-sided sheets in them. And we got some really cool stuff. I'm definitely going to be doing stuff with that and some of the cut-aparts in this. Oh, I love it. Perfect. Check that out. This is right up my alley for a little steampunk. Not too much steampunk, but a lot of good stuff here. So we'll need 2 packs of these, and these are the 12 by 12. We're going to want the American Crafts 80-pound 12 by 12 black cardstock. 25 sheets come per pack. I feel that this is a really good one for some of these folios. There's no chipboard or Tyvek in this. Adhesives, mostly I'm going to be using my Art Glitter Dries Clear Glue, but you'll want some 1/4" score tape. Magnets. Now all we need is 3 pairs, so 6 magnets for this. I am going to be die cutting this Heartfelt Creations Ornate Flourish Gateway, and this die is perfect. It's good for cards too, but I found that this is going to look really cool on the front of our project. Now we sell this in our store, but if there is none of the Ornate Flourish Gateway, the Elegant Swirl Gateway will work just the same. They're the same kind of idea, just a little bit different. Oh, and by the way, if you are not someone who die cuts, don't worry about it. You will have, instead of this on the front, you'll have a rectangle panel, and then of course we're going to be layering on top of that, so it's going to look good for you too. That's all I can think of. So equipment, we'll want a scoring board, we will want a paper cutter, of course our scoring tool. You'll want a pencil with an eraser, and you'll want to download the pre-cutting and scoring guide and label your pieces like it says on there very lightly with your pencil. Definitely going to need a ruler for this and some scissors. Craft knife always comes in handy. That's it. Let's start getting this together. We're going to be putting together the base of this folio, and we're going to review our pre-cuts from our pre-cutting guide that you all downloaded. And what we did was, our first thing is that we cut 2 pieces that were 8.5 by 12 inches long, and we called this a base. Now, one thing I want to say is, even though you're buying paper that says it's 12 by 12, you're going to want to put this down and make sure that it's 12 inches. I know with mine was 12 and 1/16 inch long, so I did trim it down to the 12 inch. And then, so there was 2 of those. And then what we also had was a 6 7/8 by 8.5 inch. And we called these pieces our base. So what we're going to do here, like it says in the pre-cutting guide, is we're going to be scoring and we're going to be seaming these together. So we're not going to be using the paper cutter, but I am going to be using the paper guide because it's flat and I can get this up, and it helps me for when I'm seaming to keep both pieces straight. So right now I have the 8.5 by 12 inch long. I'm just going to stick that in there. And I'm going to run a piece of my 1/4 inch score tape, because all you're going to be able to do is 1/4 inch of overlap seaming. So if you're not using score tape and you decide you want to use your glue, you put your glue, that's all that you're going to be seaming over. And I'm going to clip off the overhang because it will show if I don't. Okay, we'll give that a good burnishing down, get all the air out of that. And this is where my craft knife comes in handy. I have got glue and adhesive. I should have cleaned my table before I started this. So there's one, it's 12 inches wide. We're going to grab the other 8.5 by 12 inch wide, and all we're going to do is stick that up against something flat, like I said, and we're going to seam this, and it goes right on over the score tape at 1/4 inch. There we go. And we're going to burnish that. There it is. Okay, next I'm just going to slide this right on over. And I'm going to lay another piece just at this end here. And I'm going to do the same thing. Check to make sure I don't have any overhang, and I don't see that I do. Put that up there. Now, here is our 6 7/8 by 8.5. We are 8.5 tall, just like we are here. And I'm just... All right. So here is our base. I'll stick that off to the side. And what I'm going to do right now is just kind of erase these, because we'll be writing on here, sectioning this out as soon as we get done with our scoring. So I'm just going to do that. So we're going to score this, and you're going to need your ruler and your pencil. And sorry about the shaking camera. It's kind of bouncing here on me. And since this is such a long piece, we're going to be scoring this in sections. When we're done doing that, then what I'll do is I'll grab my tape measure to verify the length that we have, and then what the actual measurements were. So you can kind of do the same if you have a measuring tape or a yardstick or something. So the first thing is I need to let you know is we're going to start scoring. We're going to have the piece, the panel that is 12 inches wide. So remember, we have a shorter piece. That's going to be off to the right here. So what we're going to do is we are going to place our ruler down at the top of our piece. Our first line that we're going to mark with our pencil is 3 inches. The next one is 4 1/16. Okay. Now we're going to start making measurements from the 4 1/16 on over. So our first piece, so I'm going to just line up my 0 starting point on that 4 1/16 mark we just made, and I'm going to measure over 8.5 inches, and I'll make a pencil line. From the 8.5 inches, we're going to go 1 inch. From that last mark we just made, we're going to measure over 8 1.5 inches. From that mark, we're going to measure over 1/4 of an inch, 1/4. So that is what we have. Now let's grab our scoring board. All I'm going to do is just line up where I can get in there and score. So that's all we're doing here. When we fold on our scoring lines, I'm going to flip this over. We're just going to be folding one way towards us. And when we do that, we're going to make sure that these sides line up with our folio base every time. So if it's off a little bit, a little crooked, just realign it and smooth it out. Over here. There goes Sissy, and over there. I'm going to get my measuring tape out really quick. So I'm going to give you a grand total of how long this piece should be. So I'm going to roll this back up. So I hope that was helpful. You can just write those things down. If you have a measuring tape like this, when you go to do it again, you can do it like that. Otherwise, we did it in sections. I hope that made sense. It's just easier for me, that's for sure. Okay, so I do realize that this is black and it's very hard to see. So we are going to keep, when we're looking at this, the 3-inch where we scored 3 inches, that's going to be to the right side of us, hopefully at all times. So what we're going to do first, and we're looking at the inside, all the peaks are down, so we stay together. Okay, we're going to write on the inside here, we're going to write P4, that's panel 4. And all we're going to do is put 2 circles. Just like that. You don't have to measure them. We'll place where it's supposed to be, but this is where our magnets place. Okay, and we're going to put magnets. What I want you to do right now is fold on that score line in. Fold it in towards you. And what we're going to write is outside, front, closure. Okay? Okay, let's just flip that back. So we're looking at the inside. Right here, we're going to write in between the 2 score lines, inside spine. Right here, between this score line and this one, we are going to write P3. That's panel 3. We have another set of score lines here and here. We're going to write inside spine. And don't get confused from your seam line. Make sure you can see where your 2 score lines are there. Okay, so that's P3. This big space right here, we're going to write P2. Right here we have 2 score lines. If you would like really small and in between, put inside spine so we don't accidentally get on that. Over here we're going to put P1. Okay, so that's panel 1. And those are all going to be on the inside, of course. If you would like to write the word inside all through here, but I think putting inside spine will indicate that each one of these panels are on the inside. Okay, so we have this in front of us. Over here off to the left, where P1, panel 1 is, we're just going to fold that in. What we're going to call this one is fold in panel. So how we're labeling this is going to definitely match on the pre-cutting guide, okay? So now that we've folded this in, we're going to fold it again. And what we're going to write here is front of folio. Okay, so if you were to take this and go here, front, front, and we'll put outside. Okay, so this is how it's going to lay, like this. So if you were to pull that in, okay, flip it completely over, and we're going to put back, outside, back. Okay, now that you have this, just open it all up. So let's make sure all our panels are done. We're looking at the back, and we have a spine, 2 score lines here. We're going to put outside spine, and over here we have the score lines here. We're going to put outside spine. So we're all labeled. Let's flip it over. We'll pull this one in. That's how it goes. We'll pull this one in, and this is going to go here. So it's going to look just like that. And once we get this all organized, it's going to sit real nice for us. First thing that we're going to do is set some magnets. So let's get some magnets out. So I know there's more pre-cuts, and they're labeled under either outside, decorative outside, P1 for panel 1, panel 2. When we get to those sections is when we're going to be setting those. I don't want us to be all over the board. We're just going to do this in sections, finish the section if we can, move on to the next panel or whatever. Otherwise it gets too confusing. And okay, for now, let's just grab a couple minuses. Okay, we're going to open this up. We are looking at P4 right now. Okay, we have the 2 circles there. And what we're going to do is set a couple of these. So here's the edge. What you want to do is maybe come in an inch and just kind of place it. We'll do that with this one too. Come in, come down a little. So here is what we're going to do. We're going to grab 2 of our pluses, and we're going to just stick it on top here. For now, what we're going to do is we'll be removing just one at a time, and this ought to help you. But I want to show you first so you kind of can see what we're doing. You're not flying blind here. But we're looking at the front, and you know that this is going to come over. Just kind of stand this up. So here's my front, and you know that we have that little fold-in part right here, and we have some spacing right there, and I hope you can see that. What we're going to do is, and I'm going to bring this up so you can see. You see right here we have a corner in the front and a corner in the back. That front little corner here, what we're going to do is hold on to it, and right here where your first score line is here on this side, we're going to be tucking that right on in, even into that corner, and then we're going to pull it over and make sure we match up. And that's how we're going to be setting this. So we're going to do this together. Some of you that are advanced crafters, you might be rolling your eyes going, okay, I know, but we do have some beginners, so we got to make sure that they get it. So I'm going to put it again, like I said, right in the corner there, and I'm going to pinch it, and I'm going to make sure that this comes over even with the top of my other side. So I know it's where it's supposed to be. I'll slide my fingers right here to hold it, and then press. So we got one side down, and then carefully, because these are super strong, so that you don't tear it back off. If it comes right back off your page, we'll have to glue it down where it's supposed to go. But these are super strong magnets. So I'm going to carefully try to get these apart. Okay. time to do the second one. And how we're going to do that, we'll just flip our thing upside down. This front corner is going to tuck right up into the corner over here. Same thing, just kind of reverse. It's just easier for me to have it at the top so I can see what I'm doing when I'm doing this. Tuck it in there. Hold it. The other one's going to clasp for you, so it'll be a little bit easier. And then we'll pinch it really good there. And then we will carefully make sure that we can get these apart without tearing our magnet off. Okay, so we have those set, and I'm going to close mine up for right now. We are now on to decorating the outside, and that's where our other set of magnets is going to come into play. We're on to decorating the outside of our folio section, and we had one pre-cut, and we had a 5 1/4 by 7 3/8, so we called it a front piece. So this is where, if you're die cutting, I will show you. If you are not die cutting, hang tight. I am using the Ornate Flourish Gateway, and by the way, if you're not die cutting, you'll just leave this alone, and then we'll continue on together. You will notice in your packet of dies you will have these two pieces. What you're going to do is lay this down, and this will just fit in there like this, and you will place this one in, and you're going to run this through your die cutter. If you're using the Elegant Swirl Gateway, you have the same thing. There is a slight difference in size, and it isn't going to matter. It's just slightly smaller than this, maybe by an 1/8 or a 1/4. It doesn't matter. You'll do the same thing just by placing down and die cutting. You may want to use a shim. I used a shim on mine. So once you do that and you poke out your little pieces, you will have this. So we're going to work together. This is for the people who are not die cutting. This is for the people that are die cutting. And if you are die cutting and you are done die cutting at this point, you've paused the video and resumed, you'll want to keep this piece out. Okay, we'll just set these off to the side for right now. What we're going to get at is into one of our paper packs. And in your paper pack, you will find the clock page. And on the back, it's the large clock. Now, how I teach as far as when we're cutting the decorative paper together is I'm going to start over here and tell you to measure this way. So I'm going to grab my paper cutter here. So I'm just looking at it, so I'm going to look at it this way so we all have the same leftover pieces. Now, any leftover pieces we're going to stick into what I call our reserve pile. It's your scrap pile. Even a small skinny piece we are definitely going to keep, because I do like to conserve on paper and use up scraps. Our first cut is going to be, we are going to measure over 5 inches and cut. So I'm going to grab this, and my blade is right here, so measuring over 5 inches, and we're going to cut. For now, we're going to take this big piece and stick off into our scrap pile, our reserve pile. So now that we have this, we're just going to turn it sideways. The 45 is upside down. We're going to start here. We're going to measure over 7 1/8 inch and cut. 7 1/8. This piece will stick in our reserves for right now. We're just going to work one piece at a time and do that. Now, if you did not die cut, okay, this is where the small difference is going to be. And what you will have is a piece like this. Don't glue it down yet. What the die cutters are going to do, we're going to stay together and glue it all down together at the same time, is you'll take this piece I told you to stick out, and you're going to trace around the inside of that. Then you're going to just cut this out. Then everyone can glue their piece down. So when you're all done, die cutters, this is what yours will look like, and it's glued down. And then those who didn't die cut, you will have a nice rectangular glued down panel. The next step is placing one magnet. We're going to flip over our pieces, and if you didn't die cut, you'll come in about an inch from this side. It's going to place right here. Die cutters, we will come in from the side as well, about 1 inch. Just make sure that you have a good ½ inch between the side of your magnet and your trim. Our next step is to pull this out of our reserves. And you'll notice we're only 7 inches this way, and then of course we're 12 inches this way. And that's going to be enough room, 7 inches, versus on the other side we cut it at 7 1/8. It isn't going to matter. This is going to be the back side. So all we're going to do now is look at it like this and measure over 4 7/8 inch and cut. Once you do that, you will have a piece like this. We can put that in our reserves. Die cutters, you're going to need this piece. If you are not die cutting, you already have your magnet down here, and you will center that in there, and you can glue it down. Just make sure you center it so that your black border is even on all sides. Die cutters, we're going to take this and do the same thing we did on the front. We're going to lay this down, we're going to trace on the inside, and we're going to cut this out, and then we're going to glue it down. Very simple. I need to find my bigger scissors. I have them around here somewhere. I think I may have borrowed them from my craft room, and I didn't put it back. Okay, we'll put that in our reserves just like we had some other scraps. And again, we'll apply glue, and we will glue that down. We'll want to use our bone folder to smooth it out, and then make sure we get down over here. So the side that has the magnet is actually going to be the back side. So that we can stay straight, what I'd like you to do, so we don't get turned around, is take the mate and just place it there. Don't undo it or anything, but that will be our clue when we get the rest of this together. So we can set this panel off to the side now. It's time to start cutting for the rest of the outside. In your paper pack, you will find this beautiful blue piece, and on the back, it looks like this. So because I want to make sure that we all have the same leftover cuts, we're just going to look at our paper like this. We're going to measure over 8 1/4 inches and cut. This is what we should have. We will be getting into this, so set that off to the side. Now we're going to turn it this way to where London is over here, and we're going to measure over 8 1/4 inches and cut. And we'll just take this piece and place it over there. Now we're looking at the outside front of Folio right now, and it's so much easier if we just open this up. Before we apply our score tape, or if you're using glue, to this side, I want you to place it down in between those score lines evenly, and it should, by the time you are done placing this, give you a nice black border. So if this was closed up, this is what it would look like. Okay, and again, we are focusing on the outside front of Folio. I do like to use score tape on the outside of my stuff, so to make sure that my corners don't ever lift or snag. So all I'm going to do with this is I'm going to place my score tape around the outside of this, like a picture frame, without going over the edge. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to place one strip here, and I think for this, 2 on either side. And I'll show you what mine looks like. So I've got my score tape on here, and I'm going to place it. Now we do have to set one of our magnets on here, but we have something layering on top of this. So it is fine to go ahead and place this one. And I'm just going to get the score tape off. And then I am going to go grab something to eat really quick. My stomach is growling. I'm hungry. Otherwise, you're going to hear my stomach growling for food. And my phone, definitely have to put on vibrate because I kind of lose my concentration when that goes off. Okay, outside, front of folio. And I'm just going to center that in there, top, bottom, side to side as best I can. Trying to get it straight. And then we will burnish this down. Now we can't set the magnet yet until we get this all set back up. So here is our fold-in panel. We'll just pull that right here. What we're going to work at getting is this piece. Now this piece right here that we had, that we set off to the side, and it looks like this. This is already cut what we need. We just need to measure over and trim this down a bit. So we'll look at it like this. We're going to measure over 2 7/8 inch and cut. And you'll have this piece left over. Let's just put that in our reserves for right now. And what you can do is you can apply your glue or your score tape. And I'm going to use score tape. And we'll be placing it on this side. So I'm going to go around the outside edges like a picture frame. And I'll do one down the middle. And I might squiggle in some glue on either side of that. And once this is placed, then we can set the magnet from our other front piece. Glue is much easier to maneuver to get things straight, but on the outside I really do like to, you know, use score tape, especially to get those corner edges. Okay, we're going to place this. So with this, I'm just going to undo that and open it up. Outside front closure right here, and I'm going to place it. Try to center that top and bottom. The reason why I'm opening it up, it just makes it a little bit easier. Okay, so there is that. Now for this. So your front piece, whether it be this or your rectangle, what we're going to do is glue just enough over here so that it's centered. Okay, so what I like to do to make sure I'm getting centered here is I might put a little pencil mark kind of around my piece. If you're working with a rectangle, you can lightly draw, you know, so that when you set this, you kind of know how far over you're going to go here with your glue. And you can wipe up any excess. So I can see now where my glue needs to go. And then I'm going to wipe up any excess. But you're going to make sure you get that edge over there. And because I have a die cut trim that has some open holes on the side of it, I'll be dabbing that off. So I know where this sits now, and then I'll burnish it down and wipe up any excess glue. Get right along the edges there. Flip it over. Perfect. Okay, so this is where it's very easy. We're just going to remove, I'm looking on the inside now because I have it all opened up, and I'm going to fold it all back in. I'm going to let these magnets catch, so now I know it's going to place correctly, and I'm just going to put my hand inside and I will press, and then carefully try to remove that. Perfect. In your paper pack you will find this piece, And what we're going to do with this is just stick this on, we're going to look at it like this. Stick this on your paper cutter and we're just going to cut right down on that. So I will show you. Right underneath the book there. I'm going to put this in my reserves for right now. Okay, the next thing is I'm going to put this and I'm going to cut off the green up here but leaving the book. So we're just doing some trimming. This long skinny piece, do keep everything. And then along the side of this, we're just going to clean this up a bit. And on this side, just so you can see the book. And now I'm just going to cut right down in between. And I want this piece. And I'll put that in my reserve. So we've got several skinny scrap pieces. This is where I have this opened up. This is going to place like this. So this I can use glue for, but I am going to open this up because it does make it easier for me to burnish it down. And we're just going to stick that off at an angle. It's a sin to cover this up, I know, but we're going to do it. Place at an angle there. Burnish that down. And we'll clean up any glue that might seep out. Okay, let's fold that in. Take a look. So we got some layering effect there going. Whoops, I hit my camera. Let's go ahead and finish up the back and the spines area, and then we'll work on this. So we set this off to the side here. And what we're going to do is we'll turn it sideways. We're going to measure over 8 1/4 inches and cut. The smaller piece we'll put in our reserves. So we have this piece here, and we're going to turn it upside down. We're going to measure over 7/8 and cut. We're going to measure over again a 7/8 and cut. So we're going to have two pieces that are 7/8 wide by 8 1/4. And this piece we'll put in our reserves. So all we're going to do is, and I'm going to open mine up here and lay it out. And we're looking at the outside spine. For this you can use glue or your squirt tape, but right in between there we are going to just glue that right on down. Okay? And we're going to do the same thing on the outside spine right over here. Okay, we will just leave that open. I'm going to open this whole thing out. Matter of fact, we had a super skinny piece. And you know what? You see this little, we have 2 score lines right here before you hit the fold-in panel. We can put some of this down. So I know what this should be at is 8 1/4. And we'll glue that down too. It just will make it look all nice and finished. And this definitely glue is in order. And then we'll get our back piece. And that should fit right in between. This is like the perfect piece. So like I said, we keep all pieces because they will come in handy. All right, let's get for this piece. In your paper pack, you will have another one of these. And on the back, it is the buildings. And we will look at it like this. We're going to measure over 8 1/4 inches and cut. Put this in your reserves. And we will turn it this way. We'll measure over 8 1/4 inches and cut. We're going to do, now if you want to use this side for the back, that would blend in beautifully rather than just have that again. And I think we'll go with this side for the back. So again, I'm going to place my score tape around the outside like a picture frame, 1 down the middle, 2 on each side, and I will place that centered in there. Or you can use glue too on this. It's all according to your preference, and mine happens to be score tape. And here we go. I think that's about as even as it's gonna get. So there's our back. Score tape or your glue, all nice and burnished down. Okay, don't worry about your fold-in panel. We're just gonna fold that in. And now we're gonna finish up the front. In the back of your paper pack, you will find this. It's the back sheet. It has all our cut aparts. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to try to keep everything intact that we don't need, so it's easier for us to find. But we are going to cut this piece out right here. And we may do something with that too. But for now, let's just cut this out. And see the big trunk? I think that might work really good for what we are doing. Well, we'll use it no matter what, but let's just do this. Cut that piece out. And, oh boy, so many fun things on this. Let's cut the luggage out. Or the trunks, I should say. We'll stick this in our reserves unless I need something else out of there. Okay, this is where our black leftover scrap cardstock is going to come into play here. It's going to help reinforce our images and help them really pop. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to cut out and around each one of these pieces. And then we'll have this, and I'll show you what we'll do with that. I've got all 4 of my pieces cut out. So what I am, and this is how my the girl came out. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply glue on this, and I'm going to place it down to black cardstock, and I'm going to burnish that down. And I'm going to cut out and around, leaving just a little bit of a black border around her. That not only this cardstock, like I said, is going to strengthen up this piece, but it's also going to make it pop with the black behind it. We're also going to do the same thing with these pieces here. So we'll start getting and doing that. I have all 4 of my pieces cut out, so as you can see I did the best I could with kind of leaving a little black border on each one of these pieces. And I think we're going to use all 4. We might incorporate something else as well. So right now, because we don't have the inner guts to this done, you may be bowing a little bit in, which is fine. I'm just going to push this all the way, open this up. And right here, I'm just going to push down so it lies flat while I do this. Let's grab this piece here, and we're going to get our glue out. And we'll just get this whole piece down. We're going to do some layering here. This piece is going to be right here on this panel, so I'm going to bring this over almost to the side and down without going over for that. The next one is this, and when I glue this, I am only going to glue so in case I did want to slide something back behind, I could. So when I place glue, I'm going to do on the side and down here. So I'm going to flip this over. It's going to go down this side and make sure I got enough down here. And one thing is I put more glue than needed over here, so I'm going to wipe a little off, and I'm going to grab a scratch piece and kind of put this back behind this whole thing, and I'm going to place this right here. It has just enough to grab for us. And then I'll open it up and make sure that I get the rest of that glue off there. Okay, the next piece is this one. Now this one she is going to place like this. So we're going to be putting glue down here underneath, just enough to catch our edge down here. And we're going to, because we can slide behind that, we're going to make sure we get glue behind her. So I'm just going to kind of look, and I'm not going to put any glue up here because I do want to be able to slide. So it's just pretty much down through here and across. And her foot does stick off, so I'll only go so far there. This one's on. So just kind of like the bottom part. And then I have this scratch piece down here, just in case. So she's just going to stand kind of like this. Now if you want to tack her down right here, you can, but I'm going to leave mine like that, and eventually what's going to happen is she will go where she needs to once there's more stuff in there. So just like that, she kind of pops up for us. Okay, I'll get the glue out from behind there. Let's fold that in and take a look. That looks pretty good. This piece here is mostly going to glue down to this, and just a little bit's going to peek over the side. So I've got to be very careful because I have that trim. So I'm going to slide that back behind, and I'm just going to get enough on there, and then I'll wipe up any glue. So it looks like a strap. Get it down to my trim. And wipe up any glue. And I'm going to keep that there for a moment. Alright, I was debating about placing something up here in case you don't want to slide a photograph. Like for instance, here's a photograph. If you wanted to slide back down behind and put a photograph right in the middle there, you could on your album, or excuse me, your folio. So that's why we left that kind of undone there. And once you get a picture in there, then you can kind of tack her back down. But I think it looks pretty cool. It's kind of dimensional right now, her kind of popping up for us. So that works. Okay, so for this area here, I was thinking, and I think we should try this. Even if we don't use it here, we can use it in the album. Let the future arrive one day at a time. This is behind our front cover. So we're just going to kind of come in from the side and clip up, and we're going to cut around this. And I'm going to put this in my reserves. So I'm going to cut all the way around this. Then what I'm going to do is glue it down to my black cardstock and cut out and around, leaving that little bit of a black border. And you don't have to be a good fussy cutter for any of this because I've never been good at it. It just always looks good by the time I'm done with the black outline. It really sharpens up the image. The image does not get lost in the background papers. So we'll just see what this looks like. Don't glue this down after you cut out and around it in your black, because we may stick this somewhere else on the front. I'm actually assembling, I've already designed the folio, but as far as placing our papers, I'm kind of flying by the seat of my pants of what I think looks good, and that's how I usually do my tutorials. So I'm making this right along with you. So I never know when I'm doing these and teaching them how I'm going to place the papers. I have an idea, because there's something in the paper that totally struck me as, oh, I like this paper. I have some ideas for it. So we have a choice. We can place that right there and just not use a picture at all, or just cover it up if you decide to, or we can use that right down in here. So you decide where you would like to put it. And as for me, I think I'm going to go right up in here with it. I kind of like that. Decisions, decisions. And I always say that. Let's just go with it. I think that's pretty straight. Woohoo! I think that looks awesome. I really like the cover. I think it looks good. All right. We are now moving into the fold-in panel section. We are in the fold-in panel section. We had 2 pre-cuts. Both pre-cuts were 5 3/4 inch by 7.5 inch. And what we did for the scoring was we laid this so we were 7.5 inches across, and we scored each one at 3 3/4 inch. Now all we have to do is fold on those score lines to get this ready. Okay, let's set these off to the side. Here's my folio, and this is the section. So we're going to start by cutting for our main piece. In your paper pack, you will find this print. On the other side, we have this. So what we're going to do on this is look at it so that the little lock is down here, and this is down here. We're going to measure over 7 5/8 inch and cut. Stick this in our reserves. We'll turn it sideways. We'll measure over 8 1/4 inches and cut. Let's grab our folio and just verify how this is going to look. This, since it's all black, I'm not sure if you can see this real well. So what I'm going to do is just stick this underneath so you can see where the edge of mine is. But what we're going to do is we're just going to, we can use glue, apply glue, and we're going to center this right on in that panel. So one thing is we have that little score lines there, so we have spacing. I'm just going to push on that outside one to flatten this out. It won't hurt anything. Now you can use your score tape or glue for the inside. I'm just going to be using glue. And this is such an easy page. We'll be done with this probably 10 minutes. So I'm just going to place that in there, try to center it as best I can. And then I'll burnish that down really good. Okay, so now you can kind of see, I'm going to put this back in my reserves. You have 2 of these. So what's going to happen is this one's going to place here where it opens up like this. And then this one is going to place right here so it opens up like this. And it's still going to be on my page. So you can kind of place this down before we glue it and do anything. And maybe just have maybe a 1/16 inch of your paper showing around those edges. And you should fit in there nicely to where you can get a 1/16 of an inch over here as well showing. So we'll start with this one. And I'm going to place glue, and I'll put this down. Okay, so opening is there, glue is on the back. And I'll place this, and I think you can see what I'm doing here. Trying to get that as even as I can. Okay, got that down. Now again, the opening's over here this time. This is a fun little page. and I'll do the same thing. In your paper pack, you will find this. And what we're going to do is grab our paper cutter, and we're just going to cut out and around each one of these panels. Real simple. And you'll want to use your paper cutter so you can get a straight cut. But I'm just going to start by getting over here. And I'll be keeping these. And you can start wherever it is that you want. So I'm just going to go around the edges, and then I'll start cutting in between. So this one we're going to be using, and we'll just stick the rest over here. But you have one that they're upside down where the spine would be over off to the right hand side. That's going to be the next one, but we will make sure we have the right ones before we do anything. Again, all these little pieces we want to keep. They definitely come in handy. So this one that's more distressed than this one, that's the one we're going to use on the front there. Get this out of the way. Now we may have to trim this down just a little bit more, but let's see. This one here, if we placed it down, hey, look at that. Nice black border all the way around. That looks good. No trimming necessary. Let's get this down. I planned those pretty good, those little folders. Okay, let's see about this one. And since they're the same size, they look pretty good. Those are pretty. I got that pretty straight. Okay, let's open those up. And we have these other panels, which we know are going to fit in there pretty good. So there is a blue one, and I like that. And there's this one, and I like that. And it looks like we've got a couple other ones here. So let's place these. Oh, we'll go right over here with it. Just make sure you don't get on your score line. Otherwise you'll glue them shut. Okay, this one over here. And then I want to use some of the pattern paper for, this is a great place to, if you want to do a photo on these, great. But you can actually write in here. These two we can put, oh gosh, I'd really like to use them, but we're going to put these in our reserves because we're going to save those. In your reserves, you will have this. This will be perfect for us. On the back, it looks like this. If you were to put your ruler up to it, we are 7 inches this way, and we are about 7 1/8 inch this way. So we'll just look at it like this. We're going to measure over 3.5 inches, and that will cut us right in half. So we have that. We'll just double these up, turn it sideways, and we're going to measure over 5 5/8 inch and cut. I think that those will fit nicely in there. Let's see. Yep, that'll work. Let's get those glued down. Oh, there's my neighbor getting ready to go to work. He's a little late in the day. Usually we hear that, I don't know if you heard it or not, that big engine. That's usually about 5:30 in the morning, sometimes a little earlier, going off. And once we start getting this all together, these will settle down. But since this is our first page on the inside, it's going to be fine because once we fold in, it'll be all contained. So our fold-in panel is complete. We are now going to move on to P1, which is panel 1. We are on P1, which is panel 1, and we had one pre-cut. It is 3.5 inches by 8.5 inches, and we labeled that P1 pocket. What we did on this is we laid this so that we were 8.5 inches across. We scored at 1/2 inch, and we scored at 8 inches. We then turned this piece, so now we are 3.5 inches across, and we scored it at 1/2 inch. So we'll begin with this piece by getting it ready. And if you notice down in the corners, we have little squares. We're just going to cut those out. We'll get this pocket ready to go. And we'll turn it over, and we're going to fold on all those score lines. Okay, let's pull in the sides, and we're going to need our glue. And down here at the bottom corner, we're going to dab a little bit of glue down here. Whoops, that's a lot. That's okay, it'll be fine. Anyway, you'll pull in your sides and then pull up the bottom. And we're going to burnish. Did I get enough glue down there? I think so. Okay, we're going to set that off to the side. Let's cut for our main page. In your paper pack, you will find this print. On the back, it is this. First thing that we're going to want to do is we're just going to turn it sideways. We'll measure over 8.25 inches and cut. We'll stick this piece in our reserves. Looking at it like this now, we will measure over 7.5 inches and cut. We'll stick this in our reserves. And let's grab our folio. And we're going to open up to P1. One thing that I like to do is to tell people we always check before we add glue or any adhesive. So we're going to be adding the adhesive to this side. And if you were to place it down, leaving yourself a black border, and you are away from that score line over here, you should fit like this. And that is good. And we are going to add glue. Or you can add your score tape. I'll probably be using glue for most of the inner stuff, so. And we will place it. Just make sure you get those edges real good. Here comes the glue, finally. That looks right. We'll burnish that down. All right, with your pocket, if you notice, if you were to come and place this down, it'll fit nicely right on over that. We're not going to quite add glue yet until we get this all ready to go. But one thing is, in your reserves, you will find this, and it's quite lovely. The colors in this, the books, it just totally jumped out at me like, use it. Even though that this is taller than this, we're going to be doing something with it. So looking at your piece like this, and on the back it looks like this. So you will notice that there is a 151 on this side. Just flip it over this way so the 151 is sitting over here. We're going to measure over 7.5 inches and cut. That cut will give us this, and we'll put this in our reserves. The next thing that I would like us to do is to stick this on our paper cutter. And what we're going to do is cut right down here, just to the right of that white little trim line. I'm going to get my thing out here. I'm going to turn it around this way so I can get at it easier and see what I'm doing. So we want that. What we're going to do with this is we are going to fussy cut around the books. So let's get going on that. And that shouldn't be too hard. They're pretty easy to just kind of scallop around the bottom. And you don't have to be exactly precise. By the time we're done, it won't matter. It'll all look good. Place all your little scraps in your reserve. Let's grab out a scratch piece of our black cardstock. We're going to apply glue to this. We're going to glue it down, and we're going to cut out and around, leaving a little bit of a black border on that. I have mine all cut out. And this, what I want you to do is put this behind, put it all the way to the side so that you're flush with the side over here. And then you're going to snip off any excess on that little piece. And we're going to glue this down first to our little pocket. Down at the bottom, here's the opening, here's the bottom. And we'll center that side to side. That looks pretty good. Okay, so now for this is going to glue down over the top there, and you'll be able to see just a little bit of that print peeking out from the bottom. And you'll want to make sure that you can turn it over first and kind of place it there, and this will help you. And if you grab your pencil, I had a pencil, you can make a mark on the back side of your piece, just where the top of that pocket is. Now you know where you need to put the glue. And I'm just going to go right below that line a little, because by the time I'm done smoothing out the glue, it'll be okay. I won't have too much seeping over. So I'll just place that. That gives us somewhat of like a dimension, at least in my eyes it does. And then we'll turn it over and make sure that we burnish down at the top really good. Let's grab our folio. So on the back, we're just going to apply glue to these little lips of the thing, and then we're going to place it down like that. There we go. Now one thing is, if you cut out the book and you have this little lip over here, what you can do is just place a little glue over here to tack that down so it doesn't get caught if you're folding over. And that looks really good. And you can get your pictures in there nice on picture mats to get on in there. Nice big place in there. All right, on our cut apart sheet, you will see the bottle. We'll cut that out. And we're going to do the same thing for that. We're going to cut out and around. We're going to lay it to some black cardstock and cut out and around the black cardstock. Once you have it cut out and mounted to the black cardstock, we're just going to stick that right there. And we can leave that so it's a tuck area if we wanted to. So if we turn that over, we can get just the bottom area here, just a little bit. And I'm going to bring it down a little lower than the books there. So now if you want to tuck, say, a tag or whatever, you can. All right, panel 1 is complete. One thing that you will notice is that you have this inside spine. And if you have some narrow cuttings from when we were cutting out and around those panels, I had you keep those. So you'll want to find one of your skinnier pieces, and if you have to trim it down, fine. But what we're going to do on one of your skinnier pieces is you'll trim it down so that you can fit right inside there. So you'll want to have it at about an 1/8 inch wide, and you'll cut it to 8 1/4. So I think this is even enough for me. I'm not going to really get too technical on it, but that will look good right on in between that little area. And I'm going to glue this down. Just don't get on your score lines is all. And I'll center that top and bottom. And then I'll wipe up any glue. That looks good. And mine is not completely accurate, but it's close enough. So again, if this is too hard of a task on one of your skinny strips, don't worry about it. Okay, P1 is done. Our little skinny little area in here is done. We are now on to P2, panel 2. We are on panel 2, P2, and we had 2 pre-cuts. Let's start with the first one. And we called it our left fold out. And what we ended up doing on this is laying this down so that we were 5 1/4 inches across. We scored at a 1/2 inch, and we scored at 5/8 inch. And we can really quickly just fold on those score lines. And we'll just set that off to the side. The next one was a 3 1/2 by 5 3/8. And we called this P2, fold out pocket. And what we ended up doing, we laid this so that we were 3 1/2 inches across, and we scored at a 1/2 inch. We turned that, so now we are 5 3/8 inch across. We scored at a 1/2 inch. And 4 7/8 inch. And we will get this ready to go. We're going to do the same thing we did on our other pocket. Down here, those 2 squares, we're going to cut those out. Now, one thing you will notice, if you've been following me along when I do mini albums, sometimes I do things a little bit different in the folio. And the difference being on some of these fold-outs, they're not directly attached to our main decorative page. They are attached directly inside the folio base. And there's no spacing like in the mini albums, your fold-outs and your page. Usually we did about an 1/8 of an inch away from the score line. A lot of times in the folio, you'll see I will butt that right up next to that line. And there's some reasons for that, and I will go over that in just a moment so that maybe it's a helpful tip if you're designing your own folio. So here is our little pocket. We're going to just fold in those sides and dab a little glue down in them corners. And we'll pull up the bottom and up. And we'll set that off to the side. All right, I'm going to show you really quick what I was talking about. I do have my mock-up of this folio that when I was designing it. Now, here is P2. Okay, and here is how the left fold out is. Notice it is right on, like right by that inside little score line. And the reason why is I do that, and we're going to do that together in our folio, but the reason why I do that is there's no chipboard cover to protect this, and no chipboard spine. So if you had a album with a chipboard spine, it's going to be hard. So when we fold this all up, with it up against that area in there, it's harder for this on the outside to collapse in on you. So I hope that made sense. So here is our folio. I don't know why I keep grabbing at her, but anyway, here we are, and we're going to open that up. And I'm glad I put this down so that you can see. To the right is that score line. This is one of those instances where I am going to put this right up next to that score line, so that when this folds over and this is up against, it's going to give that spine a little more strength from mashing down on you. Okay, so here it is. Our fold out is going to have our little attachment here to the left. You have this outside score line and an inside. On that outside one, I want you to pinch and crease, so you'll still be able to see your other score line. What we're going to do is we're going to add glue, and we're going to bring it right up to that score line. Okay, not on it, but right next to it. And we're going to center this top and bottom. So you'll still be able to see on this particular fold out some of your black cardstock here and here. And going forward in here, you will notice that I'm bringing the fold outs all the way to the top. And I'll explain why I do that. And I transition doing both ways. I should say I'll explain that as soon as we get to that part. Okay, so there that is. I'm going to pinch and hold that back, and I'm going to bring it just to that score line without going on it, and make sure I am even top and bottom. And I think I am here. And you can tell by your piece down here. I'm going to press it down. Now you can fold back on that other one, and it will give you a nice little ledge there, spacing. All right, what we're going to do is we're going to start by getting our decorative paper. We're going to start right here, and then we will move on over into this area. In your paper pack, you will find this print, and on the back, it looks like this. The first thing that we're going to do is we are going to look at it like this. We're going to measure over 8 1/4 inches and cut. We'll put this in our reserves. We're going to turn it sideways. We'll measure over 8 1/4 inches and cut. This is what you should have, and I want you to set this aside. I do have an idea for this. So again, we are working on P2. And if you were to lay this down in there, it will fit in between the score lines, your inner score line of your fold out, and this, giving a nice black border all the way around. You can use this side if you prefer. And we're going to add glue to this. The little spyglass, let's fussy cut out and around that. And then once we do that, we're going to mount that to black cardstock, and we'll cut out and around that, leaving a little black border. When you're fussy cutting around that, try to leave this alone. Just try to start in from the side, go up, and you can leave some of this other print that we could possibly use. So I'll kind of show you what I'm doing, so you can try and get the same pieces left over, just in case we need that. So I'll just come straight out. I'm going to put this in my reserves. And now I'm just going to do the same thing, kind of wrap myself around here and try to leave this part alone, if you can. Alright, the rest we know what to do here. We're going to glue this down to black cardstock and cut around it, leaving a black border. I have mine all done, and what we're going to do with this is make a tuck area or a small pocket. So underneath here I'm just going to go around the little side there and down the bottom. So now if you have a picture mat or whatnot, you can just kind of tuck it right on in there. And of course you don't have to use it like that. You can do a tag or just whatever, or just leave it. But you do have the option of placing a photo here, and you do have the option of getting another one in there too. Let's move on to here. In your reserves you will have this piece. This is about 4 5/8 or so, 4 1/2, and we are about 8 1/4 inches. I'm going to redo that. It's about 4 1/2 actually, about 4 1/2 I believe. Okay, we want to cut this down a little bit. So what we're going to do is we're going to measure over 4 3/8 and cut. That will give you a long skinny little piece there. We're going to turn it and we're going to measure over 8 inches and cut. Let's verify our piece will fit in there and giving us a black border, and it does. We're going to glue that down. We have our little 3 1/2 by 5 3/8, and that is just going to place right here. So let's get our glue on that. Alright, let's get our decorated paper for that. In our reserves, and we're going to do this a little bit different than we did before, you will have this piece. So I am looking at it, 151 is on this side. We're going to measure over 4 1/4 inches and cut. Now what we're going to do is just cut out and around the top part of this. We are going to mount this to black cardstock, and we will cut around it, this whole piece. We're just going to do this one a little bit different. And I will show you this as soon as I am done cutting it out. So I have my piece cut out like this. I have the glue on, and I'm just going to grab a piece of scratch cardstock and I'm going to glue it down, leaving a little bit of a black border, and I'm going to cut all the way around, leaving a black border around this. I have mine done, and on this one we're just going to glue it right down to the front of that panel. So glue is going to go on the pocket, and then we'll place the other. Now we're going to want to put some sort of scratch cardstock inside the pocket behind, just in case glue seeps out. So I'm going to stick this right back in here like that, and we will cover this panel. And there is our pocket. That looks really good. Let's fold this in and get our paper for here. In your reserves, you will find this print. On the back, it looks like this. This is the perfect width for this. So we don't have to cut the width down, but we do have to cut some of this down. We're going to turn it this way, and we're going to measure over 8 inches and cut. Let's take a look. That looks good. It gives us a nice border. We're going to glue this down. Oh, that's cute too. So you have a choice if you want to put the cat, but we are layering something on top, so the cat would get covered up. Glue seeping out here. All right, in your reserves, there's that cat. That looks so cute down there, wouldn't it? I was thinking about placing her right there, but geez, that cat looks cute too. We'll probably use him somewhere else in here. Let's get some of this blue color in here. So I am going to cut her out. Now I came in from here because I'm not going to cut completely up and around. I'm going to try and keep the rest of this all in one piece because it's easier for me, at least, to find some of these cut aparts rather than having them all in pieces and digging through my scrap pile. And I think she'll fit perfectly in there, and she will. And I think this will look really good because we can also make that like a slide pocket. And let's see what else I got here. All these pieces are just amazing. I really like that. Okay, see the little padlock? We're going to grab that too. There's that padlock and there's that one. I think we're going to go with this one. Okay, this is where your craft knife might come in handy. We're going to cut out and around. We're going to cut the white out from in here. We're then going to glue it down to black cardstock, and we'll cut out and around, leaving a black border. Now in here you might want to make it a thicker black border. Let's check and see. This is going to be hanging half on and half off, so I think it'll be okay if we do a thinner black border in there. But I'm going to do mine first, and then I'll show you and give you my thoughts on that, since it is hanging half off the page, but I think it's going to be okay. And we're also going to do the same thing with her. We'll cut out and around her, and then we'll mount her to some black cardstock. And we'll cut out and around that. I love the paper that offers these cut aparts, because instead of us buying all the extra little embellishments to add to our project, we actually can use the paper, and we can make it thicker by doing what we're doing. I have my pieces cut out, and this is what my middle part looks like, and it's going to be good enough because majority of it's going to be on this page. So let's get our glue, and I'm just going to get along over here. And I'll put a scratch piece back behind and just a little bit over. Okay, so that looks pretty good. Now for this, I wanted to make this as a piece that you can still slide back behind. So we're only going to put glue in key points. Underneath this part for sure, her shoes, down in the corner under this side of her dress, over here underneath along this edge, and I think that that should be good enough. So mine kind of bent a little while I was fussy cutting. So over here we want to go here, make sure this is got some, and again I'm going to slide something back behind just in case my glue seeps. And I'm going to place it so this part is over here, her shoe, and that. And I think that looks pretty good. So let's give it a shot. If we had a picture mat, we would still be able to slide back behind and utilize that as a little like tuck pocket. Okay, hey, that looks pretty good, guys. Really good. Okay, this panel, panel 2, is complete. We are now on to P3, panel 3. Okay, we are on panel 3, which is P3. We have several pre-cuts for this. So what we're going to do is take these one at a time. We have a 4 3/4 inch by 8 1/2 inch. We labeled this P3 spine hinge. And what we did with this is we laid this down on our scoring board so that we were 4 3/4 across. We scored it at a 1/2 inch and 1 inch. Okay, and we can go ahead and fold on those score lines. And we'll set it off to the side. There's our first one, and I'm gonna set that up here because that's gonna be the first one we start working with. We had 2 pieces that were 6 1/2 by 8 1/2. We labeled that P3 spine hinge. So we laid this on our scoring board. So we were 6 1/2 inches across. We scored at a 1/2 inch and 3/4 inch on each one of these. Next, we had a 4 1/8 by 9 3/8 inch piece. We called it P3 pocket. And what we did was we laid this on our scoring board. We were 4 1/8 inch across. We scored it at a 1/2 inch. We turned it. We scored at a 1/2 inch. And we scored it at 8 7/8 inch. Next, what we had were 6 pieces, all 6 pieces, and they were 4 1/2 by 5 1/4 inch. We laid this on our scoring board, so we were 4 1/2 inches across, and we scored each one at a 1/2 inch. We labeled this P3 waterfall. Last piece, 3 1/2 by 6 inches. We labeled it P3 back pocket. And what we did was we laid this so we were 3 1/2 inches across. We scored it at a 1/2 inch. We turned this so we were now 6 inches across. We scored at a 1/2 inch and 5 1/2 inches. And we'll get to cutting this in just a moment. Let's grab our 4 3/4 by 8 1/2 inch spine hinge. And our hinge is going to be off to the left. Let's grab our folio and open it up. So this is where we are going to be placing glue right here, and we will pinch. And what we're going to do is line that up right where that inner score line is, not quite on it, but right next to it. And make sure that your cut is accurate so it does not go past your cardstock, top or bottom. And we are going to glue this down. Now earlier I had talked to you about how some of these are as tall as the folio, and then the one that we did previously was a little shorter. And I was going to give you an explanation why I kind of alternate to do that. And the reason why is, again, there's no chipboard, and we do want to toughen it up right up in here, especially where there's a wider spine. So that is my reasoning. It kind of helps out a little bit. At least it makes sense to me. Okay. Let's place it. And I'm just gonna get that on there without getting on that. And make sure I am even down here, top and bottom. And I think I got that pretty good. So here's the thing: if you get it on a little bit off, and you're hanging over the top edge, you can just kind of snip that. Okay, we have that down. The next one we are going to grab at is one of these 6 1/2 by 8 1/2 spine hinge. We're going to open that up. We're going to fold on the score lines here. And we're going to do the same thing, except you see where we open up here and we have that inner score line? That is where this is going to sit now. Right to the right of that, not on it, even top and bottom. And where to get that one on. And I'm going to clean up any glue that might seep. So there's that. Open that up. And that looks good. You can push back against those so that they kind of do what they're supposed to do. So now you should still be able to come over, and what's going to happen is it's going to be like this so that it can open up completely. See? And it helps out with the strength. At least in my eyes it does. Okay, let's grab our other 6.5 by 8.5 P3. I'm going to write that down. I know and your hinge is going to be to the right, so this is 6.5 by 8.5 P3 spine hinge. Okay, score lines are over here. Do the same thing, except it goes on the other side. So now I'm going to open that up, and I'm going to get some glue over here. And you can see it's going to be right there. Hopefully I got enough glue on that. And we will place that. Again, I'm going to try and stay as even as I can, top and bottom. That looks pretty darn good. Let's open that up, and we are going to find our main paper for this back part. So I'm going to slide this out of the way. In your other paper pack, you will find one of these, and on the back we have this. So what we're going to do here is we'll turn it sideways. We're going to measure over 8.25 inches and cut. Put this in your reserves. We're going to turn that upside down, and we're going to measure over 8.25 inches and cut. Let's verify this is going to fit in between those score lines, and it will fit. So we're going to glue this down. And we're going to fit that in between, giving us a black border there. Okay, let's set this off to the side. What we're going to get after right now is the 6 pieces that are our waterfall. And what we're going to do is just kind of fold on all of those score lines. Okay, we had the one that we wrote on. That will be the last one that we actually place. Let's grab our ruler and our pencil. So from the very bottom of your black cardstock, we're going to measure up about 5 inches, and we're going to make a pencil line, real light, right there. And what we're going to do here is we're going to start laying our pieces. And our first piece is going to lay right on that line, and we're going to center that in between, side by side. And then what we can do is get the rest of these on. By the time we are done, our waterfall is going to look like this, nice and centered in there. So let's begin. It is easier to use glue, or you can use score tape. I'm going to use glue, and again, I'm just going to do, well, like I said I was going to do, by putting this first one on that line and centering side to side. I'm trying to keep that even. So the first one is kind of critical because that's what's going to keep you in line, and I'm going to kind of look to see. I'm pretty straight there. Okay, next one. What's going to happen is we're going to apply glue, and we'll flip it, and we will line it up just like that. And we will do that for the rest of them too. And the last one, the very top one, is going to be the one with writing. And after each time you lay one, burnish it both ways, top and bottom. Okay, so let's continue on and keep doing that. And there is our waterfall. Now right now they're going to pop up on you. They will relax over time. Let's get our paper for this. And while I'm looking to get our paper, what I would like to use on this, on our cut apart sheet, we're going to grab that cat. And I'm going to try and keep this all together. And we'll be grabbing some other things shortly too. So I want to get some color in on this top one. And in your reserves, you will have this piece. And all we're going to do with this, and on the back it looks like that, we're going to look at it where this is over here, with the purples. We're going to measure over 5 inches and cut. So once we have this cut, let's place it down, and I'm going to put something underneath here. I did have this set aside. I had something for us to use that for, and I know what that is, but we will get to that shortly. But I just want you to be able to see where this is going to lay and how it looks. So it will lay down right like that, giving us a border. And I believe that this is actually about almost 3 7/8. I may have had a miscut here, but mine's showing in between 3 3/4 and 3 7/8 here. So we'll glue that down. So I think my cuts are just a hair off, and the reason why is the cutter that I'm using is actually one that came from the casting shop, and they were cutting some material on it. Perhaps they shouldn't have been, and they did snap underneath it, so it doesn't always want to lay flat. So I think that's where my difference is. It doesn't want to lay flat when I'm cutting. So I am going to order a new one, but I gave them my good one to use, and I just said, well, it still cuts. So that is what that should look like. The kitty cat. Oh, that is adorable. I love that. We're going to cut out and around him. And we're also going to grab something from our reserves for the back side. And I think he'll fit, possibly. Let's cut him out first. Okay, I have him cut out. Remember when we were cutting out the that scope, the spyglass I mean, and we had this left over? Let's see what this looks like here, if he'll fit. I think he just fits. So if you locate your piece like this and come down to the bottom, we'll be able to just cut off that excess. I think we'll be able to fit him, maybe not. Let's see. We will. So all we're going to do with this is to place him down, and we're just going to go outline him so that when we do flip up the waterfall thingy, and we will be backing to black cardstock, but at least we'll have some color back behind. So I'm just going to do a rough trace of this. Now it's real rough, that's for sure. Anyway, I'm going to cut this out. Okay, so there is a little silhouette of him. We're going to stick that off to the side. We're going to grab some scrap cardstock. We're going to glue him down, and we're going to cut out and around, leaving a black border. So I have him done here, and he has this little black border around him. Ah, the camera. So let's see if he fits, this little guy back behind. See if I can get him to fit right. If I need to trim a little, I will. And I do on his ears. So that's all you need to do, is just kind of have a rough back behind him. Trim up a little and glue it down to the back. Let's see. Yep, looks good to me. He's going to go right here, and he's going to provide us as a little tuck area if you wanted, or you can just stick a picture back behind. But all I'm going to do with him is just kind of put some glue right here. And I'll wipe up any excess. And I'll bring him down right about here. And I will burnish him. Make sure nothing seeps out from behind. Let's see. There we go. I got them in there. Yay! Okay, so for the rest of these, we're going to be using some colored paper because I really like the look of that. And I think I want to get in between here too. So I think maybe we'll concentrate on that. Okay, in your reserves, you will find this piece. And we're going to first get over the middle seams, I think, here, all the way down. So we're going to need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pieces. And we may be able to get it out of this. If not, we will get it off another piece. So looking at your piece like this, we're going to measure over 5 1/4 inches and cut. So that is what you should have. We're going to turn it so it's long ways. We are 5 1/4 inches. We're going to measure over 3/8 inch and cut. We'll measure over 3/8 inch and cut. And we will keep doing that until we have, what, 6 pieces I said we needed? Okay, so let's do it. So we had plenty to do this, so I have 6 of them here. And these are just going to lay right in between, and it'll match up with our paper pattern. So we're going to start by doing that. So I have all mine in between there. That looks good. Let's get for in here.